Hello everyone and welcome to another video from Kusum. I'm quality engineer for new product productions and Resrelas. And today we're tackling a student question regarding how many samples he should take during new product development testing. They usually take 10 samples and he's wondering if this is a good approach for pass-fail type testing. This problem is very common for all quality engineers. And most engineers, if I'm being honest, analyze this the wrong way. They simply say, well, my process or my corporate procedure says 10 samples, so I'm just going to take 10 samples. And then they release the product over to manufacturing, and when we actually start building 1,000 units, 10,000 units, or 100,000 units, we start getting failure rates. And everyone is like, hey, wait, why is manufacturing all of a sudden messing up if the design team passed all their tests? And then you look at the test protocol from the NPI team, and they only did 10 samples for a bond test or a stress test or maybe an assembly test, right? So here we're going to assume a very simple scenario. How many samples should X company be taking based on the expected overall failure rate of the product? So for this, let's open up Minitab right now to do some quick analysis. So here I have Minitab open right now. Now, what are the possible scenarios? Well, scenario number one is that we run our tests and we don't notice that we have defects. Scenario number two is that we run our test and we do notice that there are defects. Let's say we have a process that's going to have a 10% failure rate. So I have a 10% failure rate, and the question is, how many samples do we take? For this column, I'm only going to do the original 10 samples. For this column, I'm going to be taking 20 samples. For the next column, I'm going to take 30 samples. And just as a simple control process, I'm going to take 100 samples. Okay. Now, this is all going to be random data, but I want you guys to start to visualize it. So I'm going to go over here to Calc, Random Data, and then I'm going to select Binomial because it's going to be a pass-fail analysis. So I'll select Binomial. And here, since I want you guys to visualize this properly, I'm going to do 1,000 tests. So I'm going to use only summarized data, but I'm going to run this 1,000 times. So in total, I'm only going to take 10 samples, and I'm going to consider that the event probability is 0.05, which means, oh wait, we said 10% failure rate, so I'm going to say 0.10 here. So it's going to be a 10% failure rate. I'm going to take 10 samples and I'm going to count how many defects I found in those 10 samples. After executing, each 0 represents a test that I did where I did not find any defects. So in this scenario, for example, scenario 5, if I had been unlucky and I only took 10 samples, my test protocol from new product introduction would be accepted. And I would say, release the process. It looks okay. In scenario 7, again, I also passed. Scenarios where I have a 1 and a 2 mean that I actually found bad units, so I wouldn't accept a lot. Now, overall, if I were to count how many times I actually found defects and how many times I did not find defects by doing 10 samples, I would notice that 32% of the time, okay, so 32% of the time, I did not notice that this process had a 10% failure rate because I only took 10 samples. Now, if I increase my sample size from 10 samples to 20 samples, how would my results change? Well, I'm going to do Calc, Random Data, and I'll select Binomial again. I'll do again 1,000 tests. I'm going to store them on this column, C3. And now for the number of trials, I'm going to take 20 samples. So each 0, again, represents a scenario where I did not notice that the process had a 10% failure rate. I did not find any bad units. So let's count them up. So I'll select Tables, Tally, I'll select C3. So here, 11% of the time, I did not notice that there was a problem. Okay. Now note how the value has changed. Original, which is 10 samples, had a 32% defective rate. Now, for the improved process where I took 20 samples, so improved 20 samples, I still had an 11% passing rate. So if I ask the R&D team to only take 20 samples for a pass-fail process that in real-world conditions is going to have a 10% failure rate, 11% of the time, they will not notice that there's a problem with the part design. Now, what if I ask them for 30 samples instead of 20? Well, we'll simply re-execute this, and now I'm gonna store them on C4, and I'm gonna take 30 samples. Okay, here are my results, and let's count them up again. So tally again. I'm gonna select C4, click on OK, and now here, when I take 30 samples, there's a 4% pass rate. Okay, so it's getting a lot better. My power or my detectability gets better as I take more samples. As we can see, taking only 10 samples for a process that's going to have in real world conditions a 10% failure rate is really bad. Okay, so let's look at 100%. So if I take 100 units, so I'm going to do calc, random data, binomial, and I'm going to store this on C5. I'm going to do 100 units. And now let's count them up. So in which scenarios did I not find any defects? And as we can see with 100 samples, if the process has a 10% failure rate, then there's a 0% pass rate. So in summary for you guys, if you're only going to take something from this video, if your new product introduction process for any pass-fail functional test is only taking 10 samples, it has a really bad detectability. If you take 20 samples, it's a little bit better. If you take 30 samples, it's still somewhat sketchy. If you take 100 samples for pass-fail rates, that's actually really good. Now, this is only when the released process is going to have a 10% failure rate. For you guys that have enough time, let's build an actual table so that we can make the right decision. So here, let's do something like this. I'm gonna call this pass-fail rate. Pass rate. Okay, something like this. And we're gonna say when we take 10 samples, when we take 20 samples, when we take 30 samples, and when we take 100 samples. And we're going to say if the process is 100% effective, 2% effective, 3% effective. It's actually going to take a while. So I'm pretty much just going to fast forward through this and just going to show you guys the final table, okay? Okay, so that took a while. I had to shorten the table for time purposes. Had to do all the calculations manually. I'll leave a little bit of the steps that I did on Minitab. If you guys are wondering what I was doing, well, you can always run the command prompt using this option right here, and you can paste things into the command line right here. So what I did first was I did the steps manually. And then the only thing I want to change is the expected failure rate of the population. So that's what I was doing the whole replace thing. And I would just simply find the failure rate number. And for example, this 0.25. And I would change it to whatever number of failure rate I was analyzing at that time. So how do we read this table? If you guys look closely, it says, if the process has a 1% real-world condition failure rate, which is quite common in manufacturing processes, you have a 1% or 2% scrap rate. If the new product development team takes only 10 samples, 90% of the time, and again, this is all randomized data, but it's going to be really close in real-world conditions, they are not going to notice that their design actually creates a defect. because the failure rate is so low that when you take 10 samples, you're not going to notice. So if you simply say, oh, we took 10 samples, we found 0 defects, released the design, 90% of the time, you're not going to notice. Now, if you increase from 10 samples to 20 samples, it's a little bit better. But again, I mean, you're doing double the effort of going from 10 samples to 20, and your detection rate only increased from 90% pass rate to 82% pass rate. So double the effort for only an extra 8% of the time not messing up, not really worth it. Now, if you increase to 30 samples, and this is again 3 times the original effort of 10 samples, 74% of the time, you're not going to notice the process has a 1% failure rate. If you increase to 100 samples, 34% of the time, you're not going to notice the process has a 1% failure rate. Now, if the process has a 2% failure rate, it's a little bit easier to detect it. When you take 10 samples, you have an 82% chance of not finding it. Remember, the numbers here are not how likely you are to find defects. They are how many times you found 0 defects in 1,000 events. Now, if you take 100 samples, you will only pass or notice that, oh, the process is really good, only 11% of the time. So 9 times out of 10, if you take 100 samples and the process has a 2% failure rate, you're going to say, wait, stop the design is not good, right? If you have a 5% scrap rate, so 5% is actually a lot of money. If you look at manufacturing sites of Lean Six Sigma projects, usually they say, hey, the scrap rate is at 5%. Why is it at 5%? Didn't we have a 2 or 3 year new product development process? Well, since the NPI team only took 10 samples or 20 samples, it's very likely that they did not notice that either the material they were using was not the right material, or the way they wanted to manufacture it was not the right one. I've seen situations where people want to use laser systems to glue components instead of adhesives, or they say, hey, you know, this design, we can make the walls a little bit thinner, save ourselves a little bit of money, and then the walls start cracking, and everyone's like, oh, manufacturing is messing up. And it's like, no, the original design was likely to crack, but you guys did not notice because new product development from corporate procedure only takes 10 samples, 20 samples, or 30 samples. If the procedure were taking 100 samples, then the detection rate is a lot better for really low failure rates. Now, if your process is going to have a really high failure rate, let's say you're trying to use plastic for something that should be made of metal, okay? If you only take 10 samples, then yeah, there's only a 6% chance that you're not gonna notice that plastic breaks too quickly, and you're gonna switch to metal. So that's really good, right? And if you take your 20 samples or 30 samples, again, if plastic breaks too quickly for your expected use of the product, then you're gonna notice it. But for most of the situations where the product design is somewhat good enough but not the best, you are not going to notice failure rates when you take 10, 20, or 30 samples during new product development. Okay, so I hope this video is useful to you guys. If you guys want to take a screenshot of this table, feel free to do so. Please remember I made a little bit of, rounding up, rounding down. Didn't want to copy all the decimal positions. It's overall mainly an informational table. So that concludes our video. If you guys have any additional questions similar to this one, please feel free to send me an email to info@kasum.mx. And if it's interesting enough, I might feature it on our next video. As always, I'm quality engineer for New Product Productions, Andres Reles, wishing everyone a great day. See you guys later.